The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we are a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular franchises. And today we are discussing Basket Case 2 from 1990. But most importantly, we do have a special guest this week, host of WizBiz, host of John and Alexx Hate Stuff, writer Alexx Bollen. Welcome to the show, Alexx Bollen.
Hello, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. First episode. I mean, I feel honored.
Just right at the ground floor.
I'm not going to keep making these jokes.
It only took us 70 episodes to get you in on this. Even though I think you had me on Jaws 2 years ago, maybe when we were first launching this
to announce this coming out.
Yeah.
Not Basket Case 2, this podcast.
Yeah.
No, it was. I feel like in my mind, everything, the past was preamble. It's all leading to this, baby. Basket Case 2.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Alexx is the Dwayne to my Belial on that show. And so,
I'm glad you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Real quick, I want to be the Belial, but they really missed a trick on his name. Really should be Lyle, right? Lyle and Belial is the way it should
I see. So yeah, Dwayne should be Lyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because Belial's like some kind of ancient Hebraic demon thing.
Yeah.
And it'd be funny if they just he's got the most demonic name, but his name's Lyle.
Lyle. Yeah, I mean Dwayne's not much better, but
yeah.
I know you want to be Belial. That's why I made you Dwayne, which is such a classic Belial move on my part.
Switch him up.
That mind control that Belial has. Yeah. He's got a bunch of new powers in this one.
He does.
This is a vast departure from the first one. Imagine you're Mel Brooks and you see you see Eraserhead. You're like, look at this awesome new talent. I'm going to give him money. And then he comes back with Garbage Pail Kids at the movie.
Right.
And he's like, aren't these kids something, Mel?
Yeah.
I was not expecting this movie to be so exuberant as it was, so sort of bubbly.
Garbage Pail Kids showed up multiple times in my notes because this really feels like Garbage Pail Kids. But I watched the first one over the weekend to refresh memory because I watched it when literally 30 years ago. I vaguely remembered it, and I'm watching this sounds kind of familiar. I did not stop laughing every time fucking Belial just screamed and jumped on people.
I love that scream.
He stopped doing it in the sequel, and it made me so sad. That was the best part of that first movie.
Yeah, it's really creepy, and I think they really pulled back on that, which is funny. Frank Hennelotter did not want to make that.
Yeah.
He got approached to do stuff, let's do another one not too long after the first one came out. And he's like, I don't want to. I'd rather do something else. And I think in the interim, he only made Brain Damage.
Yep. Which is fantastic.
Yeah. And then finally was like, okay, well, you're going to give me money to do part 2. I'll do part 2, but I don't want to do what I already did, which is cool. That's absolutely admirable to just be like, well, I'm going to do something else because I did this already.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be dead. And then, he just went real silly with it. And I kind of salute that.
But he also wanted to make Frankenhooker right around this time. So they shot these back to back. It was kind of like, I mean, in this level of indie film, it's not a one for you, one for me type of trade-off, but it's still I think he sweetened the pot to get Frankenhooker made, which if you haven't seen that, you should absolutely give that a watch.
I didn't realize that was the same guy. I used to love that movie. That was in our local video store.
Exactly.
VHS Den, I think it was called. The guy let me rent it, and I was like, "Ooh, look at me! I'm 9. I'm renting Frankenhooker."
Right. So it was. Can we make Frankenhooker? Maybe. Can we make Basket Case 2? Definitely. Okay, we'll shoot these back to back. The latter, sponsored by Jolt Cola, which I very much enjoy.
Yeah, Frank Hennelotter has made comments about basically being addicted to Jolt Cola, and that's the only thing that got me through this other shoot. So
it's either cocaine or Jolt. So Jolt just sounds nice.
It makes sense. Some of the humor and the emotional level of this movie, that getting addicted to Jolt Cola is like a thing a 12-year-old would do.
Yep.
I'm glad you hear that he got money off of them, because the first time I saw Jolt in this movie, I was like, fuck yeah, Jolt. I haven't thought about that since I was a very, very young person. And then Jolt was in the movie again, and then a third time, and then a fourth. And somewhere about 3 score, I was just like, this is weird.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that gives Belial power is more Jolt Cola.
He definitely didn't want to do the same thing, which is the main quality of the first one that I love is just that nasty Times Square, New York feel. And if you're not going to go back to that, I understand it, but that's kind of what I wanted. So he just leaned into it being a cartoon this time. And he full on told the prosthetics makeup people to just be like, make it more cartoonish. I'm going in this direction. We need Mac Tonight to appear in this film.
So this is funny that you bring up Mac Tonight for a couple of reasons. Yeah, exactly. This came out the same year.
My entire notes.
This came out the same year as Nightbreed.
Yeah,
because it's very. I mean, it's very similar in terms of like, well, it's a group of, as they called them in this movie, unique individuals.
Yes,
like coming together, and then there's a moon-headed guy. The moon-headed guy in both of them. The moon-headed guy in this one is played by the guy David MG who played Flyboy in Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, okay.
Same guy, but this time he's under 8 tons of makeup. And I saw an interview with him where he's like, we could not talk. We couldn't grunt in a way that would communicate because that basically meant that we were reading lines and that would be more expensive for everyone.
Right.
So everyone just had to go, ooh, and that was about it. And I even think the one... Yeah,
that's bleak.
Yeah, that's low budget filmmaking, baby. We spent the money on all this stuff. But I do think that, and our friend and frequent guest on the show, Michael Holloway, he's like, I remember this movie is that all the monsters were too dry. And that's been a thing we've talked about on the show. He's like having goopy monsters. But I would argue that all the monsters in this movie are correctly dry. Because I think they're like supposed to be gross and weird, but it's so cartoonish that's like that fakiness. Because when you have a dry monster, they tend to look fakier, but that sort of dryness is like, we're all just goofing around having fun. You don't need to believe that these are actually big and scary.
I would say that one guy's lip was certainly moist enough because they focused on that guy's lip frequently.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that lady with the tall head that looks like maybe there's like some kind of spider colony in it. It looks like she's from Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I think she was the only one with an appropriate amount of dryness. That was the aridness around her felt earned and lived in.
Yeah.
But I think also though I would argue that because everyone else is dry, when you see the man with 27 noses and he's goopy, that makes that way worse. Because if everyone was goopy all the time, which that guy, man with 27 noses, played by another horror veteran, Michael Rogan, who was the bad guy in Doom Asylum. It's not a great slasher featuring Frankenhooker, Patty Mullen.
I couldn't tell you why. It may be because of Basket Case 2, but in my browser right now, my letterbox is on Doom Asylum, and I just added it to my watch list. And so I'm just like, it must have been because of that. But I haven't seen that.
Also, but that movie is one I would knock for being their monster being too dry.
Oh, you've seen Doom Asylum.
I've seen Doom Asylum. Dry ass monster. No
dry
thanks.
monster. Gotcha.
This picks up from the end of part 1 and not in this way that's like last time on. It literally just starts with them falling out of the window and dying.
Yeah, it's like Halloween 2.
Yeah, there's no indication of what happened before. They're just fighting and dying. That happened in 1981,
right? 82,
I love
this, yeah.
And then immediately the news story about it is in 1990.
Yeah,
plot wise, it's supposed to be immediately afterwards, but like just based on the film quality and a lot of the set design and costuming, it is very unsubtly 1990.
Yeah, I do love that. The excuse for continuing on this story is just they got better. Like they just went to the hospital. They were taken care of. Everybody's in casts and all that kind of stuff. I love that Belial is like hooked with chains to the bed, which he promptly breaks out of, but who cares? But yeah, it was just like, instead of they fall to their death, now they're just better. And that's okay.
Yeah, his eyes start glowing and that activates. Now, I thought he woke Dwayne up. But we find out later that Dwayne's basically like, no, I have no idea how I got here. That he basically just sort of took over Dwayne. I guess that's new power he has. Doesn't matter. It's fine. Same thing when he escapes and he kills that security guard. He's like attached to the wall.
But we've seen him be attached to the wall before, though. I feel like in the first movie he's attached to the wall at one of them because it just made me laugh so much. Like they were just like, what else do we do with this guy to get him at throat level? Yeah, like he can just be kind of attached, suctioned to the side of a doorway.
He was also suctioned to that woman in the first one.
That's true.
During the uncomfortable scene.
Yes.
It seemed to be some kind of octopus mouth situation happening.
They've definitely, you can see the new budget, not only just in the actual like lighting, and they're on a set that is in a shitty hotel.
Yeah.
But Belial himself looks a lot different.
He got an upgrade.
In fact, he got an upgrade, and there's something much more disgusting about his lower half now. Yeah. That's almost like a crosshatch scrotal thing. Like I don't know how else to describe it, but it's very unpleasant.
His arms are a little bit more buff too.
He is beefy in this one. Like they gave him. Yeah, I
enjoy that he's been throwing the stacks around at the gym. He's been in this time. He's been taking care of himself a little bit.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have to do leg day, so that just is another arm day.
Just arm day. All the time.
He got better LEDs for his eyeballs, which I think is a great thing to do especially when you're into your middle years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta get the laser for your eye.
Yeah. I need to work on that. I had the gym thing down. I just don't have the red laser eyes yet.
Yeah, you need to replace your eyes.
Yeah,
a couple diodes, a Raspberry Pi.
So anyway, the first kill of the movie is just some random security guard guy. He just gets strangled by Belial immediately, and this just prompts Dwayne just to try to get out of the hospital with Belial in tow. They run into Granny Ruth and Susan, who were watching the TV news reports before, but they're there to rescue Dwayne and Belial.
I also like those TV reports before we get too far away from them. So you're getting to say some of the backstory of the first movie, and some of that is delivered by the police commissioner, played by Leonard Jackson, who is just looking dead at the camera and telling you.
According to the records forwarded to us from upstate, Dwayne and his brother were born as Siamese twins. The smaller one was believed to have died during a clandestine operation that separated them.
Let's go.
We also have reason to believe that among the victims of the Bradleys are apparently the doctors that performed that surgery.
It's very funny and just tells you immediately this movie's going to be dumb as hell.
Yeah.
So get ready.
Mm-hmm. And it stayed on that guy because he goes, the doctor, that's one of my first notes. And the doctors that performed the surgery wipes his mouth. And then there's like a side, like a full one Mississippi chew.
Yeah.
And he's just on the screen for no fucking reason. I'm like,
staring.
this is weird. But then later in the movie, there's like, somewhere around 35 minutes of flashback to the first film. I'm like, I understand.
Yes.
This movie ran short. So they're making use of every single bit of film they got.
Mm-hmm. Not nearly as egregious as Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, the high watermark for this kind of thing. But they definitely, for me talking about how they kind of just drop you in at the very beginning, they definitely spent some time focusing on what happened in the first one. Yeah.
But I also do like that they fully acknowledge all the weirdness of part one. And, it's not kind of like a glazing over. Nobody knows what's going on. No, the entirety of New York City knows what's going on with Belial and Dwayne now.
I also like that we do get to see, unfortunately, it's the only time that we see her, but I understand why. Beverly Bonner one more time as
the lady from the first one?
The lady from the first one.
Casey.
Yeah, so Dwayne gets outside the hospital and is encountered by these two women in a van, one of which is, yes, as we mentioned, Granny Ruth, played by Annie Ross, who I only know from Superman 3 and my nightmares resulting from Superman 3.
Do you know her from Superman 3? Like you watch it avidly, you watch Superman 3.
It's like that bit where she turns into a robot at the end.
Okay,
was one of the scariest moments of my childhood.
Fair enough.
And like I can't watch that movie again because I don't want that ruined.
Right.
Because like how it is in my mind, I'm sure is way more terrifying than what it actually is.
Right.
But I just remember being like, I can't watch that scene and having to turn away all the time. Mm-hmm. But it's her and her daughter, Susan, played by Heather Rattray.
They tell him to jump in the van, and eventually Dwayne just wakes up kind of POV style, gets a flash of all these characters, which we will get to, a bunch of rubber monsters. He passes out again, wakes up and is introduced more properly to Granny Ruth and Susan. Also, I just want to call out for the fun of it, in this scene is a sample used in a song by frequent guest in the show, Michael Holloway, as we mentioned earlier. There's a sample from his song, The Big Reverse. So if you like Skinny Puppy style industrial music, check out his band, Dead When I Found Her. It was one of those great moments where I've heard that in his song way more than I've seen this movie. So I recognize that bit of dialogue.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in the first basket case, when Dwayne was like, bite my lip and close my eyes. Funny enough, in future, I'm sure somebody already made that joke in the first episode.
No, well done. That was not.
This is the last resort.
It did make searching for basket case information very annoying.
The only reason that was fresh in my mind.
But I like, so he's now taken to Granny Ruth's compound, I guess we'll call it, her house in Staten Island,
where all the freaks live. That's Staten Island.
True.
Yeah.
I grew up there. Do we know that house? Because that house is very familiar to me. Like, I think other things have been shot there.
It might be. I have no idea.
I did look up a little bit.
A professional show. Sorry, my bad.
I did look that up a little bit, and there was after this film was shot there were more legitimate crimes that happened at that house involving like murder and hiding bodies and that kind of stuff. So
that's why I recognize it.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Hiding inside of a corpse or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, when I said I grew up there, I mean, I'm gonna.
I also like that you're like hiding in a corpse, something like that. Like it's just normal. Like you said, like a gas station robbery. Like it's just hiding in a body. Like that's not a specific, unique, insane thing.
Sewing yourself in there so the cops don't catch you. Something like that.
No, I don't know. 3107 in New York Penal Code. I mean, you don't know.
Classic New York crime.
This is where I started thinking to myself, oh man, what have I wrought? Because I thought that the plot line for meeting all of the other people, all the other basket cases, was basket case 3. In my brain, I was just like, oh yeah, that's the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Okay, so if this is part 2, what the hell is part 3 going to be? Oh, good God. What are we in for?
Because they get introduced to the rest of the unique individuals.
Do we have a phrase that we can use in this modern unique individuals?
I mean, in the movie, they're referred to as unique individuals.
Right, because it's obviously a big play on the 1932 freaks, which, we can say or not, but I'm just saying unique individuals is fine with me.
It's absolutely tied to that movie, not just in the very overt.
I mean, she says one of us at one point.
And then, the way they deal with the female reporter at the end and turning her into a freak. It's very much like that movie. I mean, this is a trope that this happens there. Like we talked about Nightbreed. I remember there was a Batman comic where Two-Face tried to create a village for all these people to just live and be normal. And what this one does is it goes, they're just like us, but they're also fucking weird and we should point and laugh.
Yeah.
And also they live in the attic for some reason.
And they live in the attic.
This beautiful large
Good
house.
call.
Like this wonderful place, except for like the gargoyle looking thing. The gargoyle coated human. They live in the bedrooms, guys.
Right.
Mac tonight's got to be comfy on a pillow, not up in the attic with Hugo.
I mean, he does get to use the bathroom. He does get to use human bathrooms though.
Reading Stephen Hawking. So, smart fella.
I do love that gargoyle. I want that gargoyle that'll just kind of wave at me when I leave.
Yeah, but it's like all it does is sit there and laugh. So it's like, is that supposed to be a person?
Is it laughing at me when I come home from work?
Yeah, is it like, it's like, well, look, he's a person, but he's also just off his rocker. So he's comfortable doing that. He's not hurting anyone. That's fine. But you'd think she'd have like a ranch or something. I understand, money is money. But,
there's not a lot of money in the freak business.
I guess.
As we see later.
Yeah, but it's just like, it is weird that her Granny Ruth's whole thing is that, she believes that these are all, regular people and should be given a chance at life and are good, hard things. So she makes them all live in the attic.
Right.
Which is goofy as hell. And I don't think that's like a aha movie. You didn't think of this. I just think it's fucking goofy as hell. This movie went, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
It's a subtle reference to Flowers in the Attic. This is what it is. That's why, like, what happens at the end between the two of them,
Sure.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Don't want to spoil anything.
I would hate to spoil that.
We do meet the entire crew at this point, though. We get Lorenzo with the giant mouth face, who can sing opera. I did notice in this shot, it did seriously, and I don't care about this kind of thing, but it did make me laugh. But it looked like someone was in the background, literally holding their face prosthetic on, so it wouldn't fall forward. Yeah. It happens. It's fine.
Was that the guy with the plugs? Because I noticed him.
It was a
favoring
tall
the plugs
face, just going like this.
The guy with the tubes hanging out of him. I noticed
like
the scene where it seems like he was trying to keep them in, and not like the character, like the actor was like, oh fuck.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I love that kind of shit. So I'm all for it.
But it is funny though that the movie didn't even try to be like, here's someone that's just kind of weird. they're all just these huge grotesques with like, the guy that's Mac the Knight in Nightbreed, for example, has a protrusion on his chin and his forehead. This guy has a full half moon that's like parallel to his head. They grew out weird. As you mentioned, there's the person with the termite mound head.
But what I like about all these unique individuals, though, is that I'm not saying Hennelotter gave the makeup person the same treatise, but to me this is like the even lower budget version of The Thing, and just saying like go nuts, go nuts and make face things and like protrusions and all that kind of stuff. Obviously it's not as good as The Thing, but you just like use your imagination, and I dig that.
But there's that one guy that has the big teeth and the big ears, and he's just a British man. And I think that was a little rude to put him in there.
I mean, he looked like a Harry Potter character.
Yeah. That would be so funny, though. He's just like, why am I here? I'm just British. And no one listens to him.
Speaking of Harry Potter characters, there's one of those that looks exactly like a goblin from those movies in the unique individuals.
I think that's what I'm talking about.
He looks like just one of the bankers or whatever.
Yeah, big nose, big
that's
ears.
what I mean.
But less anti-Semitic.
On the unique individuals note, now maybe this is me being like ableist or some kind of thing like that, but some of them seem like their quality of life could be improved greatly easily. Like that guy with the massive teeth, like I'm not saying you'd get to a place where like you'd feel comfortable and great and yada yada. I'm not saying you even need to go that way, but you could probably get to a point of chewing with just, a couple of years of dentistry. This lady was like a psychologist that wrote a popular book. She's got money. Like, get some braces, file those things down.
You think this is a little bit of a Munchausen by proxy type of situation? Like she's like keeping them in a situation up in the attic, keeping their teeth with no braces,
so she can feel good about herself. Yeah.
Right.
Because I think that's a fair point, because there are some people that are just like, no, you have all these other things going on that you can't deal with. But that guy's like, this is a solvable problem.
Yeah.
Or like termite mound head. Like literally you could just put like a bit of fabric over that and you just look like a goth girl. Like there's not, it's
or just get a job as an Abe Lincoln impersonator.
Totally.
I do like the running gag with her, though, that the movie's pretty consistent with. Termite mound head, the person we're talking about, is their resident poet. And then later, when stuff starts going crazy, she's a conscientious objector.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then like there's a whole scene that happens where like the camera's like spinning around and you see her just like not reacting, where everyone else is like way into it.
Right.
I thought that was a nice touch, because it is sort of a way to try to be like, no, I do actually think they're human. But I also want to point
with individual thoughts and ideas. Yeah. But let's not get too far away from this scene without introducing Eve. So we don't get her full introduction, but it is implied that there is somebody very Belial-like in this attic. She's got a towel over her head, kind of like Rocky or something, and an
extremely Georgia O'Keeffe opening to that to that blanket.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So Eve, did we get her backstory? I think I
don't think so.
Over. I mean, not to get ahead. I'm not going to give anything away. But there was like a whole shitload of Chekhov happening there of like, oh, well, she's just like that. And she showed up after a while ago. It just seems like this would be like, that's your sister thing. Like there was leading to a thing. And then the thing was like, no, it's not. No, we actually never went back to that at all. Like we just sort of threw that line away.
Yeah, especially with the granddaughter, Susan.
Yes.
It feels like it's going to be like, oh, okay, so that's going to end up being that she was Susan's Belial.
Right.
No, absolutely not. That is not the case.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. Would it be great if they were like double twins? Like they were both conjoined twins, but also twins, but they didn't want to know, kind of like a Luke and Leia sitch.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So Belial and Eve actually, and after they've gone, intellectually, whatever, after they hump, they find out, and it's like, oh no, we look like this, and we're incestual.
Yeah, who would have guessed?
But to the desert planets with you.
Yeah, they actually they had like spice freighters after this.
So that leads to, after we get introduced to them, we get introduced to Plucky Reporter. We've seen her already, because she is trying. She has been in the when they're in the hospital, she's trying to find information on them or try to meet with them. She does it. Well, she only does this twice. It's not really a routine thing, but like loves giving out $100 bills to make things
That's
done.
like 35 grand in today's money. Like that lady's throwing some cash around.
Yeah.
I love that she works for the bravest newspaper.
Judge and Jury.
The bravest newspaper. That got me so good. Because it's just this shitty tabloid.
Yep.
And she meets with her editor, played by, in a sort of cheeky bit of casting.
J. Jonah, don't sue us.
Yeah. Oh, it's Jason Evers, who was from the movie The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Right.
Oh, cool.
Which is about a head in a pan. Very, very fitting to be in Basket Case. And so
and did you see the image in the background?
No.
There was a newspaper clipping in that scene behind him. I can't remember the headline, but it was Jan in the Pan.
Nice.
A shot of The Brain That Wouldn't Die. So nice. Yeah, they drew direct attention to that.
The reporter lady, what's her name? Marcy. This doesn't come up much for me, but this is one of those situations that, especially watching this kind of, I used to love this kind of shit when I was younger. She's too good of an actress that it kind of fucks the rest of the movie up for me, because all it does is call into question everybody else is acting like, especially the lead, because the lead is terrible.
Kevin Van Hentrick has a style, we'll call it.
Yeah, and honestly, didn't mind it in the first one because no one was acting near him. So it was just like, and I don't mean that it's like a dig. It's a super low budget movie, super fun. But when you have like, this lady seems like a legitimate actress, is like putting some work in, and she's like extra handsome, where it's just like, oh no, you're you're for real. And it's just like, oh, this actually kind of draws just so much more of a spotlight.
Right.
But one thing I do love about Marcy, and not to just diminish her to just physical things, but the very like late 80s, early 90s thing of nylons, big white socks, and white shoes.
Yeah.
Her outfit was on fucking point. I was enamored with it.
That is some like mall walking shit, and I just love it. Yeah.
The giant David Byrne shoulder pads, like it is so fucking good.
I like this moment with the editor. He pitches her. He's like, let's visit your old friends, the New York Twins that murdered all these people. I had this thing about $1 million reward for information about them.
But when you write this thing, don't forget to mention that the Bradleys are wanted fugitives and how this paper is aiding in the cause of justice by tracking them down, blah, blah, blah.
4-part series?
Front page all the way. And I'm going to heavily promote it.
And if I find them, do I get the $1 million?
$1 million? What $1 million?
Right. So she ends up calling around to, I mean, I guess you could say just different circus people, right? Just people who run in that kind of scene. And I do love this guy that she ends up calling and offers 100 smackaroos to see Belial. And he swears that Belial is there and she can come see him that night for 100 smackaroos. And we are not convinced at all that he has possession of Belial or who this guy is, frankly, and how, geographically speaking, how he like relates to that house.
His I was always going to say creature design, but he's a real human being.
He is a man.
It was very impressively done, because she calls him. He is in this like union suit, like on his bed. You can tell he's just like this shitty, roadside con artist. But the fact that there is a gross, disgusting stain on the side of his thigh, on the outer thigh, that just sends your brain reeling about what happened there.
You ever had an outer thigh stain?
It's just disgusting.
You don't eat dinner with the plate on your lap, in front of
I do,
the
but I can
TV
keep
or
it on
something.
there. I don't sit side saddle while eating.
It's great
like a
thigh
freak.
balance.
Yeah,
that guy is reading a magazine called Outlaw Biker Tattoo.
Hell
and
yes.
It's got 2 elderly people on the cover. And I was like, this is fucking fascinating. Because they didn't make that for the movie. This movie was made for $12. That was a thing that existed that someone bought.
Right.
Yeah. It's great. And he's so excited by the prospect of $100.
Smackaroos, please.
100 smackaroos, sorry.
Damn! 100 smackaroos! Whoa! 100 smackaroos! Whoa, boy! 100 smackarinas!
When he gets 100 smackaroos, he sounds like, remember when the little person in UHF gets the penny?
Oh, yeah.
He's got that same, like, wow, mister!
Yep.
Yeah. He's very excited. And, like, I couldn't help but think, because he doesn't have top teeth. They make it a point like, I'm like, this is probably like a handsome guy that was like an actor and stuff. And it's like, yeah, no, take off your teeth and look like a freak. He's like, now it's my big chance to be in the pictures.
He's got that one like hanger tooth, which just feels so. I was just trying to picture how you chew with that. It was. I felt bad for the fella.
Applesauce. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, he's thin, so good on him.
Yeah, but I love this reveal where he's very excited about getting this money, and there's a knock at the door, and he's like, "Well, that was quick." And he goes out, and just like the way it's revealed, because you can see the screen door in the distance, and when he turns on the light, like it's just blackness outside of there, and then just Granny Ruth is just right there, behind the screen glass, so it's the screen door, so it's a little obscured as well. But I just really liked that effect. I thought that was really cool.
She's got presence. She reminds me of B. Arthur meets the lady from Murder, She Wrote.
She's a classic actress. I mean, her first thing was being in an Our Gang's Folly of 1938. Like, is
that the one where they killed the second alfalfa?
That was, ritualistically. Yeah, it was real dark. But no, she's an old time like actress, stage actress.
That makes sense. She's got presence.
And so definitely brings it. And in fact, because the story kind of shifts more to her nonsense, I think that was a smart call because she's a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah. And she brings in Belial in a basket.
One of the great scenes. So when she shows up, my favorite part about him is that he just goes into the speech he gives when like regular folk go.
Yes,
he's talking
absolutely.
Just to her, but he's not looking at her. He's talking to an imaginary crowd.
Yeah.
It's a good bit of stagecraft.
The Bradley monster. This incredible little creature crawled all the way here from the drug-infested hellholes of New York City. And when he arrived here, he was dragging a girl under one arm and a dead doctor in the other.
Just this like some huckster stuff, and it's kind of like a microcosm of this movie where you're like, this is all bullshit and dumb, but I'm having such a good time.
Yeah,
I'm on board for it because you're just this is a fun, goofy story. This is a sideshow carnival of a movie,
right? Hennelotter being a huckster, well, not a full-on huckster, but he relates to those guys, I think.
And I don't know if it's just the way because he's in the union suit, but he's got serious Cardassian neck.
Like
this is very like thrust forward, like very strong, muscular neck kind of thing happening. It's he could absolutely be a goal. And my favorite, is so like then because he has all these fake
skeletons, two-headed boys,
fake mermaids, whatever.
A nerd here. Those are called gaffs in the business.
Gaffs, okay.
I know words. It's all I'm good at.
Your carnival history is paid off.
I'm not even kidding. Got on a weird carny thing where I got kind of obsessed with it because where I grew up, there was a enclave of little people that were lived there after the circus kind of broke up. So there's this whole town, and it was like the biggest urban legend you could ever imagine. Being 5 and finding out about this. So I had like a weird like obsession with carnies for a while.
That sounds like the plot of this movie.
Totally. No, I felt at home.
But so he shows her that this is the Bradley monster is what it's called. It's clearly like this phony baloney skeleton because we've seen Belial, but so this phony baloney skeleton that he's put together, and she ends up calling him on it. And I don't fully get this because she's like, how dare you exploit these freaks? They're not real. You know what I mean? Like the all of the stuff that he has is all bullshit. So you're
models,
like, what are you mad about? Who's he exploiting?
Well, he's exploiting the good name of Belial.
Yeah, the murderous monster Belial.
He's got a good name though. You can't take that away.
That's true.
Against Christianity.
From
Christianity.
But so she brings in this basket. He's like, well, you can apologize to Mr. Bradley yourself. There is zero reason for him to open that basket.
Mm-hmm.
He could just be like, I don't fucking care. But he's like, oh no, there's nothing in this basket. Oh, I'm going to open it up. And sure enough, he opens it up and Belial pops out because that's what Belial does in this movie.
He's a jack in the box.
Yeah. But she's like, you didn't have to do that. No one made you do that.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
In that scene, like where it's set up, there's nothing funnier to me. One, him giving the speech, but the fact that he's got a mermaid, which is a famous thing, the famous Fiji mermaid, which is like the top of a monkey sewn to the back of like a trout or whatever, and he's just got he's got like a Macy's mannequin with like bad hair just dunked in water. Like it's so shit, but I love it because it's like it's a low budget movie, but also they're in a low budget movie making something even lower budget, and they're like there's a scrappy let's get this doneness to it that I'm quite enamored with.
Yeah, there's definitely, I like that even though he has a budget, that he spent it on the creature stuff. You know what I mean? Like it seems like that's where a lot of it went, and I think that's
what we're here for.
That's he knew what he knew what the selling point of this thing was, and went, well, let's just focus on that.
Marcy shows up looking for Barker, I suppose, and finds him in an alligator tank or a fish tank, or he's been dismembered somehow. I don't know if it, like, all you see is his head, right? Like, you don't really see.
You see the body. He's just lying in the tank. A little bit more of the body.
Okay, right. So, he's gone off, at this point. So
I also just like, that was where it really struck me more than anywhere else in the movie. Was like, oh yeah, you're not just using floodlights to light a scene anymore, because it had like a lot of like pink lighting, and it was very kind of creepy.
Some cool stuff in the fish tank. Yeah,
that's the biggest. Other than like, it seems like the film stock's better. The biggest improve from the first to this one is the lighting. Like some of the stuff in the attic is like, oh, that's actually like artistic. Like you
hired a cinematographer and a crew. That can make a difference.
I did like when they were moving up to here. They kept doing establishing shots of Staten Island and then going up to Glen Falls, and they keep showing the Twin Towers. And then insert conjoined twin being separated joke goes here.
Oh, yeah.
But so she is obviously very shaken about finding this dead body. Although the way she kind of describes it is somewhat like, I got stuck in traffic. Like there's a certain one of these. But she's talking to Sexy Bronson Pinchot, her coworker.
Oh, I thought he looked like Hank Azaria from that Godzilla movie.
Totally, that works as well. Blanking on what his name is now. I don't have that written down.
Well, he played Apu. He's from The Simpsons.
No,
Artie.
Different.
Artie. Matt Mittler as Artie. And what I love is that everything that he comes up with, because he starts spitting these bizarre yarns about what actually happened. There is a kernel of truth to each one that it puts together the story, where it's like, well, it's these a cult of Belial worshippers that are trying to like protect his name.
That was my favorite one.
Yeah, where it's like, okay,
I want to see that movie.
That's kind of true, that they're trying to clear his name. There's a spaceship landed. They all looked like him, and we're angry about it. That's kind of true, that there was other like unique individuals that were doing it. Like there's all just like little kernels of truth and all that.
Next bit is Belial in therapy. And I just love so much how he's meditating. His little arm goes up all kind of like Zen-like.
So can he talk to her?
That's a good question. Therapy, in my experience, is me talking / whining to somebody, and they need to be able to hear me.
Yeah, well, that is, and I think we've talked about this on John and Alexx Hate Stuff before, is that like my ideal therapy is the therapy from THX 1038, where it's just a picture of Jesus that you just yell at, and then it dispenses drugs.
That does sound kind of great.
I could go for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this is, because he's just like, and then she'll go, oh, well, you don't like your brother, you feel trapped, but you need him.
But also connected to him.
Yeah. Where it's like she's just spouting off all this stuff, and it is this, the movie is not clever enough that kind of way to be this like that she's actually feeding him lie, you know what I mean? Like she's telling him what to think, she's manipulating him. No, I think the idea is that he's supposed to be communicating with her. That she has this like this touch, because when he like holds her hand.
Oh, is she an empath?
She feels things more than other people.
Yeah, she's making everything about her. You know,
yeah, she's got some TikToks about it.
Well, wait a second. I didn't see a single bit of quartz in that room, so I'm pretty sure she's not an empath.
That's true. But I do like that, because I had the same question. Like when therapy starts, it's like, you just took him to murder someone, and it ends with her saying,
"I understand that sadness. I understand your pain. Ripping the faces off people may not be in your best interest."
God, I love that line.
Is it that she was like, well, I was hoping you could just talk it out, but that didn't happen. But I also think she's just excited to have these monsters murder at her command.
She also just wants a new project.
Yeah.
She just wants a new Belial to work on.
I can fix him. She saw Belial in Basket Case 1 and went, I can fix him.
Yeah. Then we get a few shots of Dwayne. I mean, at this point, I just thought, remember him? Like, we haven't seen Dwayne in quite a while. And then it reinforced the fact that this movie is not so much about Dwayne and Belial and their relationship at all. Because, I had kind of forgotten about him for a while. But there is that uncanny shot of the staircase here of the two different guys going up and down the stairs. And there's something just sort of slightly off about that I liked.
Yeah, well, it sort of speaks to Dwayne's inner state, I suppose, where he's he's in this realm of unique individuals and does not feel like he's one of them. So they all feel super strange to him. He has gotten a haircut now and he looks like the music of They Might Be Giants.
I think he looks like Lowell Tolhurst from The Cure. Like that from also, the early 80s. Yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. But the only other person that looks like that is the granddaughter, Susan. And I love, we get a little scene of her. And I love this man so much because he is basically like what Dwayne becomes, because she comes out of the grocery store and he's like,
my, all that food just for you and your granny? I don't know. You think you might invite me for dinner someday? Hey, I'm just trying to be friendly. Maybe if I was a freak, you'd be a lot friendlier.
My grandmother's retired. She has nothing more to do with freaks.
What about you? I keep inviting you for a drink. You never set foot in my joint. My place ain't good enough for you, is it? Oh, come on. I'll make you a margarita. I'll put an umbrella in it. I'll bake a sour for you. I'll put cherries in it. Have a nice day, bitch.
I love you. I'd make you a margarita, baby. What are you doing? Like, that whole just toxic masculinity, whatever you want to call it, just wrapped up in this like screed of 2 minutes. And
yeah, all on Staten Island.
The New York of that was so fucking accurate. Like the amount of people I knew growing up and the thing is, the amount of people I know growing up that worked. Like literally that kind of negging thing where it's like, what the fuck just happened? Like I literally thought she was going to hit you and you go home together later.
Yep. The magic of New York. But it is very much like what Dwayne's further interactions with Susan sort of end up becoming.
Sure.
Because she's the only other normie, I guess we'll call it, there, that he is just like, oh, well, she's my ticket out of here.
Well, Dwayne's also a fucking moron. Like, let's be clear. The first time they speak, she goes, well, no, I'm one of them. You're one of them too. No, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Like underlining it while speaking. It's pick up a fucking hint, dude.
Yeah,
like somehow you managed to make enough money to go and live in New York for like months at a time. Like you can't be that stupid. Like,
well, it's also the idea of like, well, I just want to get away and escape, get a new life going. Then don't bring part of your old life with you. Just find something else. But Dwayne having had a single kiss in the first one, like that activated his horniness. So he just like, he's already all horned up and is not making good decisions.
Yeah. At this point, he does just lay it on to her pretty thick of, let's run off together, which is just like, how many conversations have you had with this person and now you want to run off with her?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. But then we're all of the same flesh, Dwayne, which, I can't hear the word flesh in a horror movie without thinking of David Cronenberg, but just it just sounds like a weird elevated form of talking in a horror film.
Well, I think wasn't that the title of her book, of Granny Ruth's book?
Oh, we're all the same.
Yeah, because that's later. So that's like even more of a tip off of I am one of them.
Right.
I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the part of New York they're in, and I'm sure they're not referencing in this, but that's where the Burnt Over district is. That was where all these weirdo cults started back in the 1817s. Back 1718s would probably be a way for that to make more sense to humans. But like that's exactly the thing of just like fucking weirdos getting together in a house and being weird and starting strange cults to the point that they called it Burnt Over because like literally a full wave of them had gone through. And then another one, and like literally there weren't any rubes left, and it was like the Burnt Over district. Like there's also a reference to fire, but
we're all a part of the cult now.
Yeah,
yes. I wrote a book featuring that.
And the title is.
The title's called Periphery. It's available on Amazon. I didn't mean that for to be a plug. It's just I know 7 things, and I got excited to say one of them.
Right. Dwayne is having a lot of trouble understanding what to do without Belial here. We're finally getting a little bit of what, maybe the rest of the movie could have been about, about the separation of these two twins. But this is happening pretty late in the film, and we get a long flashback of the separation of the first film. Now, my first thought was, some of this is unused footage of the separation procedure, stuff that I didn't recognize. But then they go in for the money shot of just pulling Belial off the side of him, and that was just a full recreation, or not recreation, but full like using of the first film.
And very recognizable. Like you're not getting away with that. Like that is one of the key scenes from the first film.
Yeah. He's thinking about Belial, and then so he goes to meet with Belial. Belial's up in the attic.
It's the first time they talk.
It's the first time they talk.
An hour or something.
Yeah, and Belial's holding hands with Eve up there. Dwayne puts him in the basket, and they go out to the garage to talk. And I really like how in some scenes, like in this particular, how they I don't know if that is actually Kevin Van Hentenryck. They made the Belial look more like him, so I don't know if that's him all made up. Because he's not credited as such.
I think he's that in the first movie when it's him under makeup, when the mouth moves in the first movie. I thought that was him.
Oh no, they didn't have any kind of money for that.
Because there's the puppet in the first movie, but there's scenes where it moves. I thought they just shoved somebody underneath the puppet. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
again, playing video games while watching it, probably
that's fine. But that
hey, I got paid to watch this movie, not that one. This one I paid attention to.
Wait, you're getting paid?
Oh yeah, James. Yeah.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. 200 for a guest.
What?
200 smackaroos. This is what I was promised.
Right.
We specifically said we would not pay this guest. No, but then he he's how he wants to live this normal life, and Belial's just laughing at him.
Yeah,
and that was
creepy.
The creepiest moment in this is that yeah, I found love with this other person, but you have to stay here. I still need you. I don't know. It was really shitty. Yeah, you see much more of the alienation of Dwayne in that moment.
Right.
That made me question something though. The end of the first movie, Belial has murdered ostensibly his girlfriend. Dwayne's girlfriend's dead. So they fall out of a window because Belial tries to murder Dwayne. What? Did they not have the money to film some kind of my bad scene? This was attempted murder. Why is he even in this house?
My
some
guess
crutches
is,
and fuck off.
This is just pulling this out of my ass. There is nothing to base this on. Is that he just oh, well, the trauma of this whole thing has wiped my memory of what exactly happened.
Right.
Works for me for this movie. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. I mean, it's done and dusted. Fine. But yeah, it doesn't, they never really address it. That, you murdered. We have this whole kind of emotional arc in the first one that we're just not even going to touch on here.
Because not even you murdered my girlfriend. Then you tried to kill me.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a double whammy. At some point, a conversation needs to happen. I mean, maybe they're really Catholic and they just never talk about things.
Yeah. Just push it down.
It's also just the emotional level of a lot of this kind of thing is just well, we're just conjoined or we're just connected. And so you're supposed to go beyond that and use that as an excuse for everything. But
it's it turns out that we're two, and as Dwayne eventually sort of spirals into, is that we're two halves of the same person. So it's fine that this happened.
Right.
In the interim, Marcy comes to talk to Granny Ruth, and once again, I know writers that use subtext, and they're all cowards because Granny Ruth is just straight up I hate you and I hate everything you do. You suck. Get out of here. And while she's kicking Marcy out, Dwayne shows up with the basket and she recognizes him immediately. Then you get this great community theater staged one shot of them working out what to do next, where Dwayne is it's Dwayne is in the foreground and is oh, shoot, you recognized it was me. And they move to the background while Granny and her granddaughter are talking. It just felt very, very stagey.
Yeah.
And it was Frank Hennelotter being well, I have a budget now. I can do this. I don't have to just I can move the camera around actually.
There was a couple of those where you could tell it was look at this. This cost me $40.
Yep.
We move on to the idea that Dwayne then decides that he'll stay and fight, whatever that means. There's going to be a meeting. I'm just at this point, I'm just who are we fighting? What are we rallying behind here?
But this ultimately seems like what Granny Ruth wants. She's one of those race wars are coming, but with unique individuals. She's we should have a meeting. We should tell everyone that this is because we're getting attention. We're probably going to get, have the law come down on us. And so she really puts on this looks like a choir robe kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I love how when they walk, and apparently this is an elevator to the attic. They walk down this hallway, her flanked by Susan and Dwayne, and gets in this elevator to take her up to the attic. And when she gets to the elevator, she just races her hands.
Yep.
Like when you're like a kid and you would use the force to open the grocery store door.
I still do that.
But she's like, hey, check this shit out. Look what I'm doing. I'm making the elevator go. That she's already gone mad with power. But then she gives this big speech. And again, like
part of the
another
movie.
like single camera like moving around and some great lighting.
Mm-hmm.
When she does the wolves are at our door, like she's going full preacher.
Yep.
She has been hoping for this moment the entire time.
Yeah. This is her January 6th.
Yes.
Which on that, but okay. So on the note of their sanctuary has been defiled. What laws have they broken other than Dwayne and Belial? Them aside, because they just showed up like a week last Tuesday.
Yep.
What laws have been broken? Like, are there anti-teeth laws? Are there anti-Mac tonight ordinances in Glen Falls, New York? Like, what exactly are they what are they protecting against?
I mean, there could be an issue of, well, she specifically mentions buying a child. Although you could probably wrap that up in some kind of adoption cover. You know, maybe some of them are also murderers because they seem very comfortable with the concept of murder.
Right. Oh, that's true. Maybe it's just implied.
It is just like, it's like, well, if they find us, we're going to get scrutiny that we don't want. And
also,
they're going to like
didn't you say you grew up on Staten Island? Don't you know what weird shit goes down there?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey and I mocked Staten Island is more where I'm from. Yeah.
Okay.
So So basically like one of those guys making fun of one of those guys.
Exactly. No, what I'm saying is I'm standing next to the trash can pointing at Oscar the Grouch saying, haha, your life is terrible. Wherein we both smell like shit and really need to leave soon.
Yeah, you are in a dumpster. He's just in a trash can.
Yeah.
You have a little bit more space to move around.
Yeah, I got look at this nice thing. I even got a roof.
The reporters have been dogging this place for a little while. They make it there and they start taking pictures. Artie goes up into the attic. Here's where we get our moment of cinema, where we are. I'm sure they were very proud of this, and it looks pretty cool.
No, it was cool. They should be proud of it.
Cool.
It was well done, but you could tell it was definitely like, we're gonna use the flash as the lighting here, guys. Aren't you excited? But it works.
Who did it better, Basket Case 2 or Equilibrium?
Basket Case 2.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
What I like, because he starts like taking photos, and he see the flash reveals that there's just this. Yes, photocata. It just flashes all this stuff, reveals there's monsters, and then he's like, "Oh no!" And he just keeps taking pictures. You could just go down the ladder, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You are not trapped.
The natural reaction, if you like collapse out of fear, you actually extricate yourself from the situation.
Yeah, just go down. But he doesn't.
I haven't used an old school camera in a minute. How many fucking flashes do those things have?
Yeah, enough.
Is it
as much as you need for the plot.
That felt like a lot.
Yeah, because he just starts going, because it's clearly just a strobe light, but he's just flashing and you're seeing them like creep towards him, and then Belial's creeping towards him, still just refusing to go back down the ladder and run away. And they grab him, and Belial murders the hell out of him.
Yeah.
It seems weird that they nominate Belial to do all the killing too. Like, he seems the least able to, reach a standing person. Like, there's a lot of like buff ass people in there. Like, that guy with the metal head could do some damage.
Yeah. Well, it's all show. I think he's like, they're fine with having Belial be the monster. And they're like, well, look, I didn't do it. I was just here, but that guy's the real
Belial's got the thirst for blood already. They're like, they know they can kind of count on him, maybe.
Yeah.
So
I wish I had something funny to say to that.
Marcy puts together that her photographer is dead, and it's all Ruth's fault.
Yeah. So she calls this private detective who goes, she's like, I think they got Artie. Go find, will you go find this out for me? And I like how he immediately just strong arms his way in.
Yeah.
Because he just calls Granny Ruth. He's like, yeah, put Dwayne on. Otherwise, I'll get a bunch of cops there. And it leads to what might be my favorite scene of the movie.
This is a strong contender for the best thing that's happened in this.
So he talks to Dwayne on the phone. He's like, well, let's meet at a bar. Hey, I know you want to get away from your brother. Let's talk about it, whenever. And when he walks in, he's dressed in the trench coat, hat, let me caution, whole thing. Dwayne's already sitting in a booth, and he's like, I bought you a beer. They sit down, start talking, and the guy's trying to convince him to leave to sell out Belial. And Dwayne's like, oh, well, you think we're freaks. Well, how do you know that we're not freaks?
Right.
Let's take a poll. And he stands up and is like, hey, excuse me, everybody.
Yeah.
How many of you think that we're normal? And it turns out the entire crowd of unique individuals is there. Mm-hmm. And I love that they're all wearing these tiny little face masks.
Yeah.
Like where one guy it kind of works for, but the rest of them it's like you're not like. And they make a big point of the one guy with the big elongated head.
Right? Yeah. That's
because it builds an intensity of how useless they are, but also it's just, I love that this is a private detective that has been sitting there for fucking minutes.
Yes.
And he didn't notice that every single person there is the weirdest looking human that he's ever seen, if seen one-on-one. It is, it is a skillless position, apparently, being a private detective. I'm not saying you deserve to die. I'm just saying, maybe you should have stayed in detective school slightly longer.
Yeah, so he gets, of course, they sick Belial on him, and Belial messes him up,
takes him out. Yeah,
and another great, like, you know, in the first one it's Belial these like doing all these bisections, and in this one it's just Belial just grabbing you and messing up your head.
Yeah,
like he did with O'Donovan in the first one.
But he ends up tossing him through the door, which is pretty great considering how does Belial have that kind of like center of gravity to pick somebody up and throw him through a door? Doesn't matter. It's great.
Yeah, Jolt Cola probably actually.
Right. Marcy is blow drying her hair, worried about her coworker still. She finds a shattered window. Looks like Dwayne snuck in. He's pretty menacing here for some reason, and he's trying to keep her quiet. Like he, all of a sudden, like the tables have kind of turned where Dwayne is a little bit villainous here.
Dwayne seems to have bypassed his whole like, I feel weird, I should get out of here. And Mord's like, nope, I'm one of them. I got to stay and fight.
Well, sort of. He says he's one of them, but also the previous scene, it's implied that he is not one of them when he's in the bar. So there's kind of he's trying to get both sides of the street.
Yeah. The individuals are there actually in the apartment somehow. Belial ends up jumping out on her, and she kind of flails around while all the other guys watch.
Again, another example of like, because she's like, well, where's Belial? She's holding this knife, and she's like, well, where's Belial? And he's like, well, you probably scared him. Oh, wait a minute, he might be in that basket. Why are you opening the basket?
Yeah,
right.
Why don't you just like stab that? Like you can go back to Pier 1. It's fine. You can get another basket.
Right.
But no, she goes over, opens the basket, and sure enough, Belial pops out and starts going to town.
John, that's a shaker wicker work, and that is a pricey. That's at least 250 smackaroos, and you're just not going to replace that.
Yeah, it's my lack of wicking knowledge.
I mean, you have to go to like Lancaster County, and she's all the way up in Glen Falls, New York, maybe Staten Island. Either way, that's a schlep.
Yeah.
Well, see, I have no idea. I got to spend more time on Wikipedia. Wikipedia.
Good one, Alex.
That's solid.
You're the guest. You bring this out of me.
To the audience, I apologize for what I've done to what you thought your host was. Please go back in time and listen to my show and know what he really is. when the mask isn't on, trying to impress James.
I mean, it worked. That was great.
I know my audience.
Yeah. Bad puns right here. Anyway, Belial deforms her. The idea, Dwayne just says something like, gee, Marcy, you know, you should see yourself now. You're a freak now too.
Yeah,
so,
this is just straight up Todd Browning's freaks.
Exactly.
Google goggle one of us.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not sure what more I wanted out of this bit, but like I actually really liked it, and I kind of wanted them to. Occasionally this movie dips into themes and ideas that I wanted them to expand upon more, where instead they were just sort of dithering about through the entire like middle of the movie. But this was a good one. I dug this.
This was, going back to your dry prosthetics thing, the part that kind of threw me on this is he would need some kind of extra powers to make her face look like that with that little blood amount. And I'm not saying you need to throw blood and blah, blah, blah. It's just, you need to kind of, I don't know, I think maybe cut the difference on what that look is. Like, it's too extreme to be, you did it with a knife and your fingers. But it's, you get what I'm saying. It's just, it was just slightly off for what they were trying to do there.
If you gooped it up, that would have sold
or with a bigger budget, you could have done like a stop motion stretching of the face.
Oh yeah,
that would be awesome.
Right there, and it wouldn't have to be bloody, but it could still be kind of cartoonish.
And they know a stop motion person because there was that stop motion part in the first one where Belial's running up the desk.
That was Hennelotter, and he hated doing it.
I could see why, because it's it seems like they were saving as many movements as possible. Like there were some big jumps in that movement.
Animation is tedious as hell.
Now there's a barbecue with all the residents at the house. Dwayne
celebrating their victory.
They do some really great. Sorry, I know I'm making you guys go super long, but they do some really great acting in that part, especially Granny Goodness, where she's like, "Oh, do you have enough mustard on there?" Like she's just doing all this business, which is really fun. So if anybody at home is watching the movie after listening to this, pay attention to the actors trying to make this sound realistic, and it's really quite fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just even some of the physical acting too. Like I like the moon-headed guy eating corn was very funny. Yeah. Just a little bit like I don't understand though. There's the one guy. He's the one that looks the most like a Garbage Pail Kid. Where like one of them is like feeding him chili or something. It's like, oh, it's too hot. But he has like workable arms and like you could just eat it. What is happening? But maybe they're a couple. I don't know. It was just a weird moment.
Yeah, they just got like a chili kink. It's good.
Yeah,
could be. Yeah,
love to feed my partner hot chili. That's my thing.
Yeah, they call that game.
I'm Alexx Jones.
Oh, your joke is so much better. God damn it.
Dwayne tells Susan once again they should run away together, and there's the idea that they're just normal. He keeps trying to push that idea, and she's not buying it again. They kiss, and Belial is once again mind melding with him. Mm-hmm. And then nothing happens after that.
Yep. Then we can just successfully move on to the next scene.
Fine, and we move on to the next scene.
Before we go into the big reveal, he's feeling Belial fucking is what's happening there. Like there's a telepathic.
Yes,
okay. I think so. Yeah.
She says it a lot nicer.
It's Belial. Something's happening. I can feel it. I don't know.
He's also in love.
So the two, we get a full nudity, full frontal from Eve, I guess you'd call it, because blanket's off, and she is exactly like Belial.
Too?
Yeah, and like she has like a leg,
full torso to full womb mode.
Yeah. Anyway, they're having sex, and Frank Hennelotter thinks this is very, very funny, and he stays on it for a very, very long time.
He's not wrong.
Well, I will admit that the bit where as they're reaching climax, that like her foot is going against the bars of her crib, and it's sounding like church bells.
Yes,
that was funny. And that took away from the sheer horror of everything else. Cause it's like, there's one part where they're in close-ups, they're caressing each other. And one of them has this like scrotal looking outgrowth.
Yes.
That's very uncomfortable. I think that's on her. Yeah. Like there's a lot going on in this scene. And it seems like Frank Hennelotter worked backwards from this. Yeah. It's like, well, how can I make it so that this happens?
Right. So good luck, audience. If you're planning on watching this, enjoy this. I mean, I watched a lot of trash in my day, but I had seen this movie before, but like the protracted scenes of this did make me kind of sit up and go, huh?
Yeah.
And
okay.
It awoken something in me.
What makes it like more poignant or more pointed or there's it adds to it is that might not be the weirdest thing that's happening concurrent in the film, because it also goes with our two mains having sex, where it turns out she's got a sandworm in her belly because she had sex with one of the people, I think 6 years ago.
Well, just some guy.
She's just been pregnant for 6 years, which I love that idea.
But I
one would assume it's got to be somebody at the house, because why would it have like a sandworm?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a reasonable assumption to make, but she sort of just makes it sound like I had sex with a guy once. That was it. And then I had this baby that wouldn't be born. And then the fact that it turned into a sandworm kind of thing, because she's like, it's still in there, and she lays on the bed, holds up her shirt, and it comes out. And it's basically like it's a fancy ass sock puppet is what it is. But it looks like a sandworm kind of thing, and it just screams and whatever. But it's just not human at all. But that doesn't bother her. That's her baby. But it doesn't, like, at no point is he like, oh, how come it's not even close to human?
Yeah.
You know, it's just.
But what I love about this reasoning is, in this kind of tone of a movie, you just buy it, where they just say, yeah, it just doesn't want to come out yet.
Yeah.
Like, I love that idea.
You set the stage for like, why not? Why wouldn't this be the reason?
Why wouldn't this be the thing? It's just like, oh no, it just still wants to stay in the womb for a while, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too afraid. And then so he's like, okay, well, she's a freak. I thought she was normal too. This is awful.
So do you think he accidentally pushes her out the window here? Or on purpose? Either way, she goes flying out the window, lands on the picnic table.
I think she finally developed her levitation powers because he lightly pushes her. And then there's like a Sam Raimi-esque push that she's just kind of floating towards the window in a way that physics doesn't. I'll word it that way. It is a very, very weird articulation of going through the window.
Or is it a thing where Belial in that moment is like, well, I'm going to take over Kevin again, or I'm going to take over Dwayne again.
Right.
And give him my super strength because he did in the first one. Why not? And I'm going to take away this one joy that he has. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's what happened. I just had that thought, but I think he did it. I would argue more that Dwayne did it purposefully, that he's like in this, like not with probably without thinking, but in the heat of the moment is like, this is all collapsing around.
I mean,
him,
haven't we all been there? You find out that, your girlfriend has a pregnant sandworm and you just kind of freak out.
Your girlfriend isn't a virgin at age 38. And so you just freak out and throw out a window. Right. All the unique individuals are very upset that she's dead and like find Dwayne. And they do so by just running around making funny noises.
Yeah.
That's their big search.
Love that. Yeah,
it's just a tracking shot of the different hallways and they're just running around. And
so Dwayne at this point grabs a baseball bat. Mm-hmm. And his idea is he's trying to knock his brother unconscious. That's what that bat's for?
Yes.
That seems I get it. I've watched this whole movie at this point. It's probably stupid of me to question these things.
No,
but that seems a strange jump.
All very abrupt because like in this madness of finding this out about Susan, Dwayne gets a bat and he's like, we're just two halves of the same person, and finds Belial, knocks him out, and then sews him onto his side.
Cool scene.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool scene. Yeah.
That's a
cool
great
scene.
bit.
And then Granny Ruth and them come in and he's like, it's fine. I'm full now. Like I'm whole now. And then the movie ends.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you knew this was a trilogy, you knew this was The Last Jedi. This was Star Wars Episode 8. Where you're like, well, I know they made a third one.
It's the Two Towers. They're gonna go into it. Yeah,
that would make sense. Like, okay, well now, oh man, this shit's gonna get real in the next one now because this is all super weird. But to just end the sequel this way, where it's like, oh, and then I guess this happened, is very strange. And it doesn't sound like this was initially planned to be an additional movie on top of this one. But
the next movie comes out in like a year when I was looking on IMDb. Yeah. So like it must have been there must have been an awareness while filming this that there was going to be another one.
But it's also a lot of movies, especially horror movies or action movies, definitely just end so abruptly in the 80s. And
the first one of this, they just we'll just fall out a window.
That one though, there was at least an arc to it, whereas this like kind of feels like Dwayne's like, oh, we should be back together now. Kind of comes out of nowhere.
Well, that's because we don't have enough time with Dwayne and Belial in this movie.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I wish Basket Case 2 was 15 minutes longer or just excise 15 minutes elsewhere. Yeah. And we just don't have enough connection between the two of them, especially to earn an ending where they sew each other back together.
So if I may pitch an alternate version of this movie that I think would be a lot better. Is Dwayne's in a coma the whole movie. We focus on Belial. The end of the movie, Belial decides that he wants to be back with Wayne, and we get an awkward scene of those weird ass hands trying to sew himself to an unconscious.
Sewing himself. Oh, that's sweet.
Because that would also mimic the first movie where it's Belial's idea to throw him out a window and murder. Like it would kind of make sense, and then we wouldn't have to deal with that guy's acting. So it would work like really well.
If I could pitch an alternate version of this movie, it's called Dead Ringers.
Gynecological tools used for operating on mutant women. Yeah, I love Dead Ringers, and I've said that line since I saw it in 1998 or whatever.
Did you watch the new series?
No, my friend who she and I share a love of Dead Ringers. She watched the first 2 episodes and went, I don't know if you really need to bother. And I took that home. At some point, I'm going to get bored and watch it.
I watched it all, and it was it got a little too into the modern love of let's watch rich people be terrible, which I'm kind of tired of. But there's a lot of good stuff in it.
That seems to be the consensus of like, I've never heard anybody go, oh, it's amazing. And as much as I've got a ton of time to burn, I can just rewatch House again. So I'm probably not going to get to it.
That's still there. Yeah. It is still not.
Literally just started Hannibal for the 4th time because you and I were talking about it.
Yeah. I actually, because we were talking about it on the show, I was like, I should fire that back up.
I don't need to do it, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, why not?
All right, well, let's honor our dead and then move on. Officer S. Cargrove, played by Brian Fitzpatrick, strangled by Belial. Lyle Barker, played by Jean Saint, bled to death in water tank. Artie, played by Matt Mittler, mauled by Belial. Clancy, played by Michael Rubenstein, jaw ripped open by Belial. Phil, played by Todd Sorrell, lips ripped off, thrown through a door by Belial. Susan Smoyer, played by Heather Rattray, pushed out of window by Dwayne. 6 big dead bodies in this, all by Belial, except for Dwayne at the end.
That's true.
So this will be the first non-Belial death. But I don't know. I mean, if you're not looking for the same movie again, which is also, I feel like I say this a lot more these days on the show, but like, this is kind of the point of the show. Do we want the same thing over again? Do we want something different? And man, this guy went 180 degrees and give us something different. And I don't know, there's a lot to love about this one, I think.
Yeah, I think, again, like this was an example of the second one getting a bit silly with it, or in this case, extremely silly with it. And while I love the first one for what it is, this makes no secret about it. It's not even trying to be the first one. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to meet this at its level. And it is. This would be so much fun to see in a theater with people.
Yeah.
Just having a great time with it. Like as like, I'm going to sit down and watch Basket Case 2. I don't know, but
sure,
it is for what it's trying to be. It absolutely works.
Yep, same. I was really surprised because that first movie, if any movie screams there's absolutely no need for a sequel, it's that one. That you literally kill off your mains at the end. And like, man, this movie did a great job of me wanting to watch this, like, because there's no reason for this to be a sequel. It's a different movie. You don't need these people. And to the point that I'm like, I kind of want to watch part 3. And like, I don't even need to talk to anybody about it on a microphone, which is the only way I watch movies now. So that says a lot about the quality, or at least the interestingness of this film.
As someone who just loves anything with like over the top, stupid rubber monster makeup, I mean, we didn't even spend that much time talking about all the different rubber monster faces in this, but they are not Stan Winston level, obviously, but man, you can tell that there's heart that got put into it. They definitely went up a level.
Yeah, they have a more of like a Savage Steve kind of vibe.
Yes, yeah.
So there's a lot of them that I agree like, I think there's so much charm in there. I need to point out how bad the frog looks. That they just,
the frog was pretty crappy.
They just put like pantyhose over the mouth. Like, it is the most obvious. Like, we don't know what to do with the mouth, and we just put this like black gauzy stuff just to like, whatever, it's fine. But that guy is on screen a lot, and weirdly he ribbits, which doesn't make a ton of sense.
And also just eats like handfuls of live goldfish.
Yeah, he's not a actual frog.
Right. Well, but for being like, no, these are just people. This movie is like, but point and laugh. Look at this weirdo. He's eating fish. Yeah. He's totally a frog.
Yeah. Like there's like actual humans in the real world that have that like that fish skin disease, that their skin gets all scaly and weird. Like they don't swim around in their own shit and eat like little flakes of stuff. Like they're humans. Their skin looks a little fishy. Like why would this guy kind of looking like a frog go full? What's that Roddy Piper movie where everybody looked like that?
Oh, Hell Comes to Frog Town.
Yeah, they don't go full Hell Comes to Frog Town.
Well, this movie posits, what if he did?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be better?
All right. Well, Alex, what do you want to plug at the end of this show?
I do a show with your very charming and lovely host, host,
What?
Eric.
I have one of those?
Oh, sorry. Wait, wrong show. Sorry. I thought it was on Ornamancy. I drag John along. I don't know. I'm the co-host of John Alexx Hate Stuff. Of course, you all know John. I do another show called Whiz Biz with Alex and Eric. That is about the show Adventure Time. And Eric and I are both, well, he's a practicing weirdo occultist type, and I'm a amateur weirdo occultist type, and we try to view Adventure Time through the film of the lens of that. And I've got some books on Amazon. So I don't know if you have show notes, but there might be links in there. If you don't, I mean, just guess. I've been on the internet like publicly since like 2010. Like, if you can't find me, it's like, that's on you, bro. Oh, yeah. I've been doing a lot of Twitch streaming lately. So I'm Verb Alexx on there, like Verb Alexx, Alexx.
There you go. Well, I'm a fan of John and Alexx Hate Stuff, and I've listened to a few Whiz Biz, but only because I've only watched a little bit of Adventure Time, so maybe I need to go back and start. Do you need to be an Adventure Time fan to enjoy the show, do you think?
I would say that after season 1, you don't need to, because Eric and I have started doing skip episodes where the ones that are just like, whatever, this has nothing to do with the plot. Right. And then the ones that have to do with the plot, we could spend time talking about the plot instead of like, oh, and that's where the the frog princess jumped out of the well and just nonsense bullshit. And it's like, that's gone. So, you can definitely watch it. You can definitely listen without knowing if you like hearing two weirdos talk. I also do a segment about words every episode, which people like, which has nothing to do with Adventure Time. We don't want to do
words.
Yeah, we don't. Well, we just want to do. We have to do like 2 or 3 episodes per episodes of ours. It's like we need something to break it up. It's like, I don't know. I guess we'll just talk about words in between it. I guess that's a segment. Sure, why not?
All right. Well, you can follow us on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod, and on YouTube at Hurt a Bit Pod, and you can email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. And so stay tuned, because next time we're going to talk about, who guessed it, Basket Case 3. Until then, good night.
Good night.
Bye.
This has been a Caretaker Press production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling, and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod, and email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review over on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.